What's up, how you doing? It's the man, the myth, the legend. What's up, what's the weatherman here? And it couldn't be a better man there to bring you this type of video. Have you ever been talking to a Yu-Gi-Oh vet using their Yu-Gi-Oh terminology and you didn't have a clue what they were talking about? Just had to sit there like,
what the f does that mean, Kobe Bryant?
Well, not anymore. Today I brought you guys Yu-Gi-Oh terminology for dummy, I mean new players. Let's jump right into this. Start this off at number one. I've actually bundled 3 words into one slot because they all just refer to a monster being removed from the field. For starters, we have bounce. No, I'm not talking about what your granny was doing in her early 20s because this is a PG show. Bounce in simple terms is just an effect that returns your opponent's cards to their hand. An example of this type of effect is Bryonic Dragon of the Ice Barrier. You could discard any number of cards, then target the same amount of cards your opponent controls and return them to the hand. Next, we have the term pop, the term spin as well. Pop is probably the term you're most familiar with because it's the type of removal that we see mostly in Duel Links. Pop just means destruction by a card effect. I think French Montana actually has a song explaining how this works. In my most recent video where I talked about the new version of Blue Eyes, which you could watch now for absolutely free, by the way, I play Ultimate Fusion, which is a quick play fusion spell that also pops cards without targeting. For every Blue Eyes White Dragon I use as fusion material from my field, I can destroy that same amount of face-up cards my opponent controls, or should I say pop the same amount of face-up cards my opponent controls. Or, as Uncle Luke says on his sample on the French Montana song, don't stop, pop that, don't stop, pop that, pop that. Next, we've got spin, which is also a pretty easy term to explain. Have you ever heard the term spinning the block? Well, this is exactly like that term, except it's nothing like that term. Spin in Yu-Gi-Oh means to return a card back to the deck. A deck you may be familiar with is Tinyi, which at the time of recording is my and our, here at Team 6K's, biggest video on the channel. So go look that up if you want to see it and you haven't seen it, or just rewatch it. Give us some more views, I appreciate it. Tinyi plays a level 8 synchro that spins cards. Baxia Brightness of the Yang Zing says when this card is synchro summoned, you can target cards on the field up to the number of original different attribute worm monsters that you use for the synchro summon of this card, then shuffle them into the deck or spin them, right? Because that is placing them back in the deck. Now we can go to the next word, right? Next, we've got brick. We all know that morning brick, fellas. You wake up, you look down, and you go, how am I supposed to use the bathroom, bruh? When I have 2 Successor Soul and 2 Ultimate Fusion in my opening hand. Please explain that to me, Konami. A brick is when you have, as Undead would say, all undesirable cards in your hand, or mostly undesirable cards in your hand. If you brick, you can more than likely only do very little of your deck strategy, or even worse, probably none of it at all. Next, we've got the term back row at number 3. This is simply the spell trap cards placed in your back row of the field. More often than not, being disruptions. Live Twin is a back row heavy deck because they typically play about 3 sets of cards like Forbidden Droplet, Ice Dragon's Prison, Warning Point, Offering to the Doom, just really good spell traps. So they would likely have 9 back row in their deck, making them likely to see about 2, maybe even 3 back row in their opening hand. At number 4, we've got the term hand trap. These are just monsters that have conditions requiring that they be in the hand to activate their effect either as a quick play or on the opponent's turn. These are cards like Kite Roy, Sphere Karibo, Effect Veiler, DD Crow, maybe you play Master Duel, Ash Blossom, Maxi, Nibiru, Ghost Bell. Things of that nature would be considered hand traps. So do not get this mistaken for any card that simply activates in the hand. For it to be a hand trap, it must also be a disruption of some form, and like I said, most likely activating either as a quick play from the hand or on the opponent's turn, which is why I mentioned cards like Kite Roid and Sphere Karibo. They're kind of like battle traps, battle hand traps, because they don't activate until your opponent attacks either directly or in general. Next at number 5, we've got burn. Burn is pretty much just a type of damage you can take, or better yet, effect damage you could take. Luckily, we're not in a meta where we really have to worry about this type of thing, and most of Duel Links history, you honestly haven't had to worry about this kind of thing, but that doesn't mean that they don't exist. Red Eyes Flare Dragon says, while this card has Xyz material, each time your opponent activates a card or effect, inflict 250 damage to your opponent immediately after it resolves. Elemental Hero Neos Kluger says, if this card battles an opponent's monster, you can inflict damage to your opponent equal to half that monster's attack. Or, just to give a little bit of PTSD to my people who remember the format, there's a card called Lava Golem. For the low cost of your opponent playing the damn game, you can summon this bad boy to your opponent's side of the field by tributing 2 of their monsters. And then once per turn during their standby phase, since they now control this monster, they would take 500 damage. And this was before Konami actually changed the burn damage to fit more into Duel Links. So at the time, Lava Golem actually burned you for 1,000 during every standby phase, which means that you essentially had 4 turns until you died. So really trash. It was a really bad meta, but it burned you for 1,000 every standby phase. So did the other cards, just to give you a couple couple examples. I had a lot of sleepless nights during this meta. At number 7, we've got Nuke. Nuke just means exactly what it sounds like, and I don't mean that in a spin the block kind of way. Nuking is just blowing up the field. You're essentially doing something that would clear the entire board, or this is also known as a board wipe. Though, to be clear, some people do use the term board wipe when referring to a one-sided board wipe, which just means all of your opponent's monsters are being destroyed, or not your opponents, but all your opponent's cards are being destroyed. Whereas a board wipe does genuinely mean clearing the entire board. Like, for example, Black Rose Dragon, when on synchro summon, will destroy all cards on the field, including itself. That is a board wipe. But some people do use it, like I said, referring to a one-sided board wipe, meaning you're just clearing your opponent's field. It's not that big a deal, but just to let you know, that is probably what they're referring to when they say either of those. At number 7, we've got Scoop, which just means surrendering. It's pretty much a reference to how a player would scoop up their cards, signaling that they're surrendering. Though it doesn't make as much sense in Duel Links, since we can't really scoop up our cards because we're playing on a phone. Maybe in Duel Links we could call it flagging, since we actually click the flag icon, or waving the white flag or something. I don't know. Who cares? I guess you people don't look at me as a trendsetter anyway, so you don't actually have to use the term. At number 8, we've got Float. Float is pretty simple. A card that floats is a card that when removed from the field will summon something else or even itself. I'm Duck, the World Chalice Dragon, says if this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can special summon one World Chalice monster from your hand. So if this card leaves the field and goes specifically to the grave, it will summon a World Chalice monster from your hand. So it floats. It floats into a World Chalice monster from your hand. Obviously, all floating cards don't necessarily summon from the hand. Some summon from deck, some summon from grave, some summon from banish pile. It honestly depends. Some even summon from the extra deck, to be honest with you. And also, while I'm on the topic, some cards do say it differently. Some of them are when they leave the field. Some say when sent to grave. Some say on destruction. Some say when banished. It really depends. But either way, some form of it being removed will cause it to summon something else or even itself. Next, at number 9, we've got Crash. To crash, or otherwise known as the word that we can't say on YouTube that means deleting yourself, it's pretty much just attacking a monster with the intent of both of your monsters being destroyed, or attacking a monster with the same stats as yours. Either way, it would be something like me using my Blue Eyes White Dragon to get rid of a Blackluster Soldier. Say they have 3,000 life points left and all I have are 2 Blue Eyes White Dragon and they have 1 Blackluster Soldier. Well, I would crash with one of my Blue Eyes because both of them had 3,000 attack, which would mean that both of them are destroyed. But now, since his card is destroyed, he has an open field and I could attack directly. So to crash just means essentially attacking a monster that would destroy your monster in the process, as well as destroying theirs. Next, at number 10, we've got Top Deck. This is literally the card on the top of the deck that you're about to draw or just drew during your draw phase. One might say, man, I need to top deck a starter. Man, he always top decks Ice Dragon's Prison. Or there's no way I actually top decked 3 alternative. There is no way I have 3 alternative in my hand and no Blue Eyes. Now that I've gone through all the terms for this video, I've left this slot blank so that you could use it to comment more terms for a future video. What should go here? Who's next? You decide. Epic Duel Link terms of... I'm not doing that. It's hella corny. Anyway, I'm gonna get out of here before you guys start clowning me in the comments. Weatherman signing out.
Hey, why they gotta hate on me? I done got me 250,000 views and they still saying they low key. They ain't wanna come work with the kid, but I'm flexing with Zay on beats. How they ask for a spot at the gym, but they leave all the weight on me. I don't ask them to wait on me. They would ask where they gon' be with a song if they wanted the Weatherman. I ain't asking to pay no fees. She was homeless and needed a spot. I ain't ask her to pay no lease. I ain't ask her to say no please. I ain't ask her to make no cheese. Scream fake, but it ain't on me. Got clean so it ain't no streets. Why green if it ain't no keeps? Brought cream so it ain't no beef. My team say it ain't no chief. My demon, they hang on me. They seemingly ain't no peace. I seen him, he ain't no beast. For